Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Math Health and Wellness Committee's Healthy Wednesday. I hope everyone is fine, everyone is keeping safe, and inshallah looking forward for an Eid celebration. My special guest today is Brother Rafee Al Mansur. He is a psychologist and a marriage counselor. He has visited us several times in our masjid and has given us really valuable presentation on stress management and anger management. We really look forward to get some techniques and strategies and some exercises about stress management, as everyone is going through a lot of stress these days. I'll start with my program today with a special announcement from Sister Talibah Hassan. She is the Vice President of Muslim Association of Virginia. And since Eid is coming up the day after tomorrow on Friday, there is a special announcement from Dar Al Noor on how we are offering the Eid prayer. The good news is that we are offering the Eid prayer. There are Eid prayers in the masjid. Inshallah, we'll get to see everyone, but there is a special protocol, a special arrangements for the Eid. And Sister Talba will let us know how we are offering the Eid and how many Eid prayers there are, inshallah. And then I will proceed to my program with Brother Rafee. So Sister Talba Hassan, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Assalamu alaikum, my brothers and sisters. I'm going to share my screen because I do have some notes for you. And let me share my screen. 1 second, I'll pull them back down. I'll hit share screen. I already got them up. Okay. All right. So, alhamdulillah, we are actually going to have Eid prayers this coming Friday. We're going to have 3. There will be 6:30 a.m., 8 a.m., and 9:30 a.m. But it's going to be different. It's going to be in the parking lot. All right. So you will be driving in. There will be the parking attendants will direct you to where to park. All right. And you will stay there in your car until the signal is given for you to exit your car. Please cut your engine off at that time. You will exit. Bring your prayer rug. Okay. You need to bring your prayer rug, everybody. You need to bring your prayer rug. You need to have your mask, okay? And in fact, you need to have it on when you drive up, okay? Everybody in your car needs to have their mask on. We're going to pray beside our vehicles. And again, there will be hosts and hostesses that will show you where to line up in columns, okay? Once we've done the prayer, then you're going to return to your vehicle. And we're going to have speakers around in the different sections of the parking lot, and you will hear the khutbah, the lecture that follows. So remember, for Eid prayers, we pray first, all right, and then we listen to the lecture. So we need to stay quiet and listen to the lecture. When it's over, then the parking lot attendants will direct you on how to leave. So we're going to enter the way we normally enter. You're going to pay attention to the parking lot attendants to park where they tell you to park, and we're going to exit out where we normally exit out, okay? And so there'll be people there explaining things to you. So it's imperative that everybody wear their mask, okay? It's imperative that everybody bring their prayer mat, okay? Now, this is what's important. Well, all of that is important. That this is how we're doing it this year. Just time-wise, the 6:30 prayer, we plan to start it on time. You know, we do the takbirs, then we do the prayer, then we do the sermon, and then we're going to leave. So probably right around 7 o'clock or so, we're going to be leaving so that we can clear the parking lot. And so about 7:45, we'll be letting in the new group for the 8 o'clock prayer. If you get to the park, to our Dar Al Noor, and the cops wave you past because we're full, that means you have to come back to the next prayer. All right. So if you're coming to 6:30, I would suggest you be there at 6:15. If you're coming to the 8, I suggest you be there about 20 minutes to 8 because the parking lot should be filled. If you're coming in the 9:30, I suggest that you be there about 10 after 9. All right. So Here's what's important. If you wake up, you have a headache, you don't feel yourself that day, Allah knows your intentions. Stay home, okay? If you're sick, if you feel you're sick, or if you're just not feeling yourself, stay home. Please stay home and help protect our ummah. We highly recommend that children stay home. We highly recommend that individuals 65 and older stay home. Most importantly, if you have an underlying condition, all right, high blood pressure, your diabetes is not under control, you have allergies, you have, heaven forbid, that you might be suffering a particular illness that we pray Allah you get healed from, but any of those things make you more vulnerable to the virus. Stay home. The good thing is at 8 a.m., the 8 a.m. prayer is going to be Zoom. So you can go to Facebook Live, you can go to our website to live stream and hear the Eid lecture. Please, before you leave, you make wudu. All right, you go to the bathroom, make wudu, because the masjid's building itself will be closed, except for the ops manager and maybe the imams, their staff. Everybody else, the masjid's locked, so the restrooms are not available. So please, go to the restroom before you leave, then you make your wudu, then you come to the masjid. Now, I think I've already mentioned, but once the parking lot is full, then the police will be out there. You won't be able to get in, all right? Which means go home, come back for the next one. So quickly to review, these are the following rules. You're coming based on, and you understand that you're coming voluntarily. No one's forcing you, no one's twisting your arm. You're coming, you are saying, I'm coming, I'm taking the risk, okay? The masjid doesn't have the risk is on you. Mask, we gotta wear the mask, no entry, all right? Bring your prayer rug or bring a sheet. If you're feeling sick, stay home. If you're 65 or older, we recommend that you Zoom us at 8 a.m. If you have underlying conditions, please Zoom us at 8 a.m. Not Zoom, it's going to be Facebook Live, but it's also going to be live stream. So if you don't have Facebook, that's okay. Hit live stream on the website. All right, children are recommended to stay home. You need to stay 6 feet apart. So I know when you get out that car, you want to go and hug your friend you haven't seen in a month. Wave. You know, Assalamu alaikum. Do not go over to them, please, please. All right. Avoid crowding. So it's like stay by your car. I already told you make wudu before you leave. And please, you're going to have volunteers. They're going to have these bright yellowish vests. Please listen to them. They're volunteering their time. They are not getting paid. So please be kind and follow the directions of our MAV volunteers as well as anything that the local cops tell us. All right? And we pray Allah that He continues to protect our community from the COVID-19 pandemic and that we've practiced safe social distancing, wearing our masks, so that inshallah, one day soon, hopefully before the winter hits, we'll be back inside. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Sister Talibah, as this is a really valuable information. So everyone, please keep yourself updated on the Eid plan and Eid prayers through WhatsApp groups and through Masjid Dar Al Noor's Facebook page. Please yourself updated, stay safe, and help us keep the community safe, inshallah. So with all this information, as for most of you, it looks like it gives me a lot of stress because there is so much to follow, so much new things, so much new ways of life. And how do we manage our stress? Stress and anxiety is a very commonly used term, but what does it really clinically mean to be stressed? How do we manage it? How do we manage in ourselves? If we feel we are stressed, how do we manage in our kids or family members or community at large? So I welcome you, Brother Rafee. Welcome to my program. Let first introduce yourself a little bit, Brother Rafee. What do you do? What you have studied? And then please tell us something about stress, what it is. It's a commonly used term. You listen, like kids use this word like most of the time regarding their homework, regarding their, any activities and sports or anything. So please let us know what is real stress, what is clinical stress, and how do we manage it? How do we help ourselves manage the stress?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Rafee Al Mansur. I'm a resident in marriage and family therapy, means I'm doing my residency now, working in a private practice under my supervisor. Many of you may know her. Her name is Salma Bujadiri. So I'm working in McLean. Currently, everything is teletherapy. I'm just doing it from my office. No one actually comes in here, but just for privacy, I do my sessions from here. Most of my, I work with the Muslim community in the area across a variety of issues, but I'd say the majority of my clients are either couples doing marriage counseling or male individuals from adolescence into adulthood. So that's kind of my particular area of clients that I work with, but I work with a lot of things, new things come through I work with new things all the time as well. So I'm always learning. And I thought here I could share a few points, a few things around stress and managing some difficult emotions. I like the Dar Al Noor community. I've done a few talks there. I'm always happy to go there and see familiar faces whenever I do go. So yeah, I'll share a few points. I don't have a formal presentations. I just kind of jotted a few notes down. So excuse me if this is a little bit kind of disjointed at times. But first off, I guess I'll start by kind of addressing what is stress. So the idea, stress is something that there isn't any probably human being that can talk that doesn't know what stress is. But at the same time, it's hard to define what stress actually is. And we all feel it, we all experience it, we know what it's like. No one likes it for the most part, when it's bad at least. But what is it? So one definition that I really like, and it's through a program that I work with called the Together program, where we do workshops for couples dealing with stress and financial stress in particular. The definition that we use there is that stress is a balance between your perceived resources on one side and your demands on the other. And it's this balance between how much you perceive that you have of each. So resources can be anything like time, it can be money, it could be energy, motivation, anything that you would use to meet the demands on your life. A key point here is that it's perceived resources. So it's not what you actually have, it's really just what you think you have. So it's your perception of what you think you have on one side, and on the other side is your demands. And so demands can be either external or internal. So external means these can be demands that other people put on you, be it an employer, it could be a spouse, it could be a child, it could be a parent, any kind of demand that they have on you. As well as internal demands. And so these are the demands that we put on ourselves. If we set certain expectations for ourselves that, I need to have this, or I need to make sure that I do this. And demands, they're good, right? When we set expectations, they're meant to be motivating. They're meant to encourage us to move towards our goals and towards what's important to us. Unfortunately, sometimes we can't control the amount of demands others put on us, as well as sometimes we put too much demand on ourselves. And so we tell ourselves that we're kind of shooting really high because that's what's good for us, but really we're actually oftentimes just overwhelming ourselves because we see that we want to achieve this high level, but we think that we only have this much, time, energy, money, whatever it might be that we need. And so when we do that, we're in now a position of bad stress. When it's balanced, it's actually good, right? This is when you feel like you have demands on you, but the resources that you have actually are able to meet them. So this is actually a good level of stress to be at because it's motivating, it's encouraging, it keeps you productive. So that's not actually bad. But when it's too high, when we tell ourselves that we're going to do too much and we feel like we're not able to do it, that's when stress quickly converts into bad stress, and which then converts into other negative emotions, right? When we start to feel anxiety or we start to feel overwhelmed. And then, we start to feel doubt. We start to feel like we don't have enough resources to do what we have to do. And so when you're already anticipating that you're not going to be able to meet the demands that are placed on you, it's very hard to find motivation because you're very close to feeling defeated at that point. Because it's like, why even try if I know that I'm not going to be able to do it? And then when you feel defeated, right, it's not a good place to find, again, motivation, and that can lead to other emotions from there. So this kind of leads me to my next point, which is the idea between primary emotions and secondary emotions. So primary emotions are the emotions that are a direct response to a situation, right? Something happens and then that situation makes us feel a certain way. Secondary emotions are actually emotions that happen in response to another emotion. And so a lot of times we see the secondary emotion. The secondary emotion comes out on the outside, right? Sometimes it can look like anger, it can look like disappointment, frustration, whatever it might be. But really, it might be covering up what's really the core emotion that we're really struggling with. You know, be it guilt, you know, it could be shame, you know, it could be anxiety or fear. And so it's sometimes hard to know what a person is really going through because on the outside they're showing one thing, but on the inside they're actually feeling something else. Um, so um, so that's how basically secondary emotions can react to emotions. Now we ourselves also react to our own emotions. Um, so, you know, over time, we've learned kind of ways or habits or processes of dealing with difficult emotions. You know, when we start to feel, for example, like overwhelmed, right, we might have kind of like a go-to kind of coping mechanism for that. Or if we start to feel anxiety, right, we might have a go-to mechanism for that. You know, some people, when they feel anxious, they might become kind of, say, more controlling. They might try to kind of control the situation to prevent it from getting worse. Some people, they might actually kind of avoid whatever's causing them anxiety to allow them to kind of cool down. And so these kinds of responses aren't inherently good or bad, really. They can be good and they can also be bad, given on the situation. Now the problem is when we don't use the right process in response to the right emotion. Sometimes we do things that we think is really in our best interest, but really it's not, but we can't really help but do it that way. Um, and so, you know, what can happen is if we're already conditioned to respond in certain ways, and we know it's not helping us, yet we can't help but do it, you know, someone might see it and say, well, you need to stop doing that. That's not good for you. And yeah, we know that, we see that it's not good for us. We see that it's probably actually hurting us in some ways. But to stop doing that, it means that we have to then, we feel like we have to then confront that negative emotion, whatever it is, right? It might be guilt, it might be shame, it might be you know, depression one level. It could be, you know, grief or sadness. There's a whole host of emotions that you could be experiencing. But if you don't know how to cope with that emotion, if you don't kind of have the tools or the knowledge of how to approach it, then it's like either I do what I know isn't helping me, or I don't do it, but then I'm just stuck in this bad emotion. And it's hard to sit there. You know, our body naturally doesn't like being there for very long. And so that's where we naturally, you know, our coping mechanisms or our defensive mechanisms kick in. So a lot of times when we're going through different struggles in life, the issue isn't dealing with the problem itself. You know, we tend to try to tell ourselves that we need to do this, we need to do that. We try to put pressure on ourselves to just do what we know we need to do. But really at the core is actually knowing how to deal with the emotion that situation is causing us. And the primary emotion, what's really at the core of it. Because if you can't deal with, if you know how to deal with that emotion, how to soothe the feeling that it's giving you, then you'll naturally be in a state where you'll be able to do what you need to do. And it becomes a much easier process rather than feeling like you're, you know, going up an uphill battle. This is what we call emotional regulation, is a kind of the concept for it. You can, you know, Google it, look it up, and there's probably a lot of things you can find around how to emotionally regulate yourself. And there's different approaches to it. The problem is that we're never really actually taught very well how to manage our emotions. You know, it's just not part of what I think is our standard education. I think maybe nowadays, you know, I know schools are doing more around it, which is a great thing. Um, but so one helpful concept to think about is what's called our window of tolerance. And that's kind of like this emotional level of energy that we can have, where when we're inside of this level, we're in a good place. It's where we can think and feel coherently at the same time. We can process our experience, we can kind of respond without reacting to whatever emotion we're feeling. But then sometimes we can actually go too high or we can go too low. And either of those is actually not good. Too low is called hypoarousal and too high is called hyperarousal. So when you're too high, that's when you feel really intense emotions. That's when you're feeling maybe really angry, you're feeling really irritated or frustrated. Maybe you're really anxious, right? Your mind is running and it won't stop. You feel your body is sweating and getting hot, and you can't really focus. What happens there is that when we get to that point, our brain isn't processing all of our experiences coherently at the same time. We're kind of only feeling one thing, and we can't, for example, feel like more than one emotion at one time because that one emotion is overpowering us. And so it's very hard to kind of respond in the most helpful ways when we're there. And the same thing goes when we're kind of hypoaroused, when we're too low, right? That's when we're feeling really lethargic. We can't really focus either. We're not really finding any motivation to do anything. So that's also a bad place to be. So you want to always kind of work to try to get yourself into this kind of safe window of emotions. Now, the problem is, when we have difficult experiences, say if you have any kinds of traumatic experiences, if you feel, growing up, as you felt really kind of maybe misunderstood, or you didn't know how to process your emotions, then even little things can quickly take you outside of your window of tolerance. You might have actually a pretty narrow band. And so then you might find a lot of the time you're spending living outside of that safe window. And it's not, again, a comfortable place to be. And it's also a very confusing place to be. When you're there, it's very hard to make sense of what's going on around you, or why you're feeling what you're feeling and what you need to do. And so that's where we might kind of shift into our natural response, defense mechanisms just to get out of there, whether it's avoiding a situation, right? Maybe you're, whatever it might be, right? So this can have a lot of other kinds of consequences or difficulties too, because when you don't understand what you're feeling and why you're feeling it, and you don't know how to stop feeling it, it's very hard to because it's very hard to understand yourself. It can be very hard to have compassion for yourself. You don't really know what's going on with you. And so when you're doing the wrong things and you keep doing them over and over, you feel it's very easy to then shift into having this critical voice about ourselves, where, oh, why do I keep doing that? I'm such a bad person, or, I can't get over this problem. What's wrong with me? Right. And so then you try to kind of, beat yourself in line, but that doesn't really help. And it just makes you feel kind of really bad about yourself. And when you feel really bad about yourself, again, that's a hard place to be, right? You're feeling ashamed. Shame is a very difficult emotion for any person to sit in. No one wants to feel that. So when you're feeling it, you're going to try to get out of it, right? Maybe you might, turn on the TV, or you might go into video games. Maybe there's other habits that are really bad for you might get into. And so we tend to use these other things to try to regulate our emotions, but it's not really in a healthy way. Another thing that this could lead to is, because we can't control ourselves internally, we try to control our world outside of us. We try to have an external locus of control, which means that we try to control the situations or the people around us to make sure that they don't cause us stress. Because I already can't control what's going on in here, and I'm already up to here. So I'm going to at least try to control what's out here so it doesn't make it go over the top. And so you find, people might tend to focus more on what's outside of them. So with that, right, I wanted to leave you guys with just some ideas in terms of, if you are kind of, how to regulate your emotions. So let's see. To be able to regulate our emotions, the first, I think, a good starting place is to understand what their purpose is. Emotions aren't there just to wreak havoc on our lives, right? They're not there just to make us feel miserable whenever something goes wrong. Emotions are actually, the word emotion comes from a Latin word, which means to move. And that's because the idea behind emotions is that their function or their purpose is to actually motivate us towards some kind of behavior or response. And so that's really what we should be looking at. Not, knowing what the emotion is important, so we can figure out what it's trying to tell us to do. part of that is so I guess when it comes to emotions, a good approach to being more mindful about the emotions you experience is through the activities of mindfulness, which is, it's like meditation, but, really it's more about being aware of your conscious experience and what you're feeling. And so there's good books out there, there's good resources. I like one book called The Untethered Soul. It helps kind of map it out. But the idea is that, when we feel our emotions, to recognize that you're not actually the emotion yourself, right? If you want to even think of this from like an Islamic perspective, the way I kind of see it is that, our ruh, or our soul, is the one that's actually experiencing the emotions that we feel, or even the thoughts that we have, or the things that we see, right? When you're looking at me on the computer screen, you know that I'm not you, right? I'm an object. Who you are is the person that's seeing me. And so you're the one that consciousness that's always taking things in, whether it's the sights around you, whether it's the sounds that you hear, or whether it's the feelings that you feel inside. And so when you realize that when I'm feeling angry, right, I'm not the anger itself. The anger is separate from me, and I'm actually feeling that anger. And so when you can just kind of take a step back and feel the emotion, that's actually a good way of expanding our window of tolerance, right? When you can just sit with an emotion, even just for a few seconds, rather than feel it and respond to it, just allow yourself to just kind of sit there with it, close your eyes if you want, and just, feel what it feels like, and then try to label it, try to identify what emotion is this, okay, what am I really going through? Sometimes it can be a little complicated because we feel a lot of emotions at the same time. But you want to just sit and think, okay, what's on my mind? Okay, maybe I'm feeling anxious because, there's an assignment that I was supposed to have done by now, but I didn't do it. Maybe, I'm feeling sad because, I lost something important to me, et cetera, et cetera. And then, you want to then try to think, okay, I'm feeling this emotion. Now, what is this emotion trying to compel me to do or motivate me to do? Just to give you guys a few examples of what different purposes of emotions are, right? There's for example, emotions of fear or anxiety, right? Anxiety is like you're worrying that something could happen. And so what that's trying to motivate you to do usually is to do some kind of, caution-seeking behavior, right? Maybe to prepare more for something or whatever it might be. If you're feeling guilt is a sign that you're violating one of your core values. And so it's there to try to kind of nudge you back in line to be in harmony with what's important to you. Shame, right? Shame is another emotion where it's this feeling of failure, like I'm failing at something. But the purpose of shame isn't just to make you miserable. It's to tell you that what you're doing isn't working, right? So if you're feeling shame, it means that, okay, what I've been doing keeps getting me to this point. I need to try something different. And that's what this shame is trying to tell me to do. When it comes to sadness or grief even, this symbolizes losing something of value to you, right? You've lost something that's important to you. And so you're kind of, you're mourning over whatever it is you lost. And what it's trying to actually motivate you to do is to actually create new value in your life, right? Find something that's important to you and grab it and hold on to it. And until you find something of value that's important to you, you're going to keep on feeling sad. And so, this is, an exercise I actually personally do myself. Kind of what I'm telling you guys now is, every morning, I have a journal where I use 2 prompts, where the first prompt says I am feeling, and the second prompt says I am needing. And so under the first prompt, I'll write I'm feeling, and then I'll write A, and I'll write the first emotion that I notice inside of me, and I'll write why I'm feeling it. B, another emotion, C, D, and I'll go as far as I can think of. Usually I'll have maybe 8 to 10 different emotions that I'm carrying at any one time. Then under I'm needing, I'll label the same letters that I just put above, A, B, C, D, and so forth. And then I'll write, what is that emotion needing in order to feel better, right? What is this emotion trying to tell me to do? or to think or to appreciate. Sometimes it might just be to say, Alhamdulillah, and just be grateful for something and to acknowledge it to Allah. And then by the time I've done this, I found every time I do it, you leave feeling centered and grounded, because what our emotions actually are is that they represent our values and they represent what's important to us. Because if something wasn't important to you, then you wouldn't be feeling an emotion around it. And so the fact that there's an emotion there means that there's something of importance there. You just need to figure out what it is and what you have to do to feel better. Okay. So I'll finish off on that point. I think you're muted.
This is really great, Brother Rafee. This was like a very well explained about emotions and about stress and anxiety and all the emotions actually, and especially the techniques that you told at the end are really, really like beneficial. And I hope like whoever is watching tries to keep up a journal and write their emotions and what they need. And inshallah, it will be beneficial. Just before I let you go, just a quick thing. What is the indicator that this is my emotions are beyond my control and now I need to see a therapist? One. And the question number two is, do most insurance plans cover seeing therapists with or do we need to go through our primary care doctors if we need a behavioral kind of therapy?
Yeah, good questions. Okay, so the first one, just to know if you should see a therapist. There's different signs, but really, if you're finding yourself really just in a difficult place where you feel like you're always outside of that window, right? Where it's hard to just feel, you're not feeling good. You might be feeling depressed, and it's hard to kind of get motivated. You might be ruminating a lot. You might be thinking a lot about the past. You might be having flashbacks. You might be having little patience, right? If you find that you're always kind of getting angry or upset about things, usually it means that, likely you kind of had a way of kind of maybe bottling up feelings or not really dealing with them. And then at one point they just start kind of coming out. So, that's, I think, you kind of know when you're at a place where, it could be helpful to talk with someone just to explore. Therapy, I think, is a great opportunity just to learn more about yourself. I do it myself, and I find it to be really beneficial and helpful when I do. As far as being covered for insurance, so it varies. So a lot of insurance policies do cover therapy, but you have to be in network. So like, because of that, I mean, there's already a shortage of Muslim therapists in the area, unfortunately. There's maybe like, I don't know, probably 20 therapists that I can think of just in the whole DMV. And so some of them take insurances, some of them don't. Like me, for example, I'm still doing my residency, so I can't be on an insurance panel. So actually, I'm not on any insurance panels. So if a therapist doesn't accept your insurance, then you can see if you have out-of-network benefits. If you do, then most therapists can provide you a super bill, which is basically like an invoice that you can give to your insurance, and then they'll reimburse you at their rate.
Yes, thank you so much, Brother Rafee. Thank you. Like, it's always a pleasure see you, learn from you, and like benefit from you. Thank you so much, Jazakallah. And Assalamu alaikum. Now I will go to Dr. Hina for some updates on COVID-19. As always, Dr. Hina, can you please unmute yourself?
Yes.
She-
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah.
Go ahead, Hina. Introduce yourself if you want to, and then please let us know what's going on with the COVID numbers. We see like the numbers are rising day by day. So what is the thing that we are doing wrong as a community, as a nation, that we're still not at a good place, not at a happy place?
Right. Yeah. In Virginia, unfortunately, the number of cases are increasing. Just today, we had over 1,500 plus positive cases in one single day for today. And that's close to the numbers that we were seeing in May. The highest that we had seen was 1,600 positive in one single day. So we're kind of backtracking a little bit. And in our own county, on Monday, we saw 133 new cases. And again, with most of these cases, what we're seeing, a newer trend is most of these cases are in the younger age group, where they're 20 to 30-year-olds, where we're seeing a lot of positive cases right now. And the reason for this is that I think most of us are letting our guard down a little bit. We still have to be very, very careful. We still have to follow all, the instructions that are coming from CDC. Just to give you an example, I know Eid is coming. I know everyone wants to get together with their family, and what we think is that, oh, you know, that's my family, I can meet them, it's okay, you know, and everyone kind of congregates together in one place. But all of those, each individuals, they are meeting other people too. They have different contacts. So it's not as simple as if it's not as if you're safe just because you're meeting only a certain number of people. The things do spread out. Just to give you an example, we had in our own community, we had a family, they had a birthday party for a child, and it was all the aunts and uncles who had all gathered together with their cousins. They all thought, yes, we're family, we can hang out together. They had a nice dinner party. They had a couple of close family friends who at that time were not symptomatic, which means they were not exhibiting any symptoms at that point. But then those family friends, unfortunately, one of the people tested positive, and half of those family members, and we're talking about over a dozen people, then tested positive. And you can imagine all those people, you know, some of them, they went to the grocery store, they went to their job, they might have you know, infected other people without realizing it. And then so it kind of fans out from there. So again, it's extremely important to exercise precaution. I know we want to meet our family and friends, but please, you know, keep your distance, do the 6-foot distancing, please wear masks. I know everyone wants to hug on Eid, but like Sister Talibah had said, just say hello or wave Assalamu alaikum from far away. Try to be outdoors, you know, don't try to be inside for long periods of time in poorly ventilated places. Especially when socializing, we tend to let our guard down. We laugh a lot, we hug, we sit close by together. That's when the virus really spreads. And if you don't exercise precaution, we will have a very difficult time trying to control the spread of this virus. And I think, you know, I just wanted to, and I'm going to quote the WHO Director General, who gave this great advice that I think we should all follow. So I'm quoting him. He said, "We are asking everyone to treat the decisions about where they go, what they do, who they meet with as a life and death decision, because they are. It may not be your life, but your choices could be the difference between life and death for someone you love, or even for a complete stranger." So yes, it's not about you personally. You might do okay, but we as Muslims have a bigger responsibility on our hands. We have to be responsible for our actions. We have to think about our family, our friends, our community at large. And inshallah, I'm sure as a good Muslim community, we can practice, you know, good decision making, and we will come out through this pandemic doing well. Thank you.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Dr. Hina, for the powerful words, first of all, from the director of WHO. And thank you very much for, again, reminding us to stay safe, keep the distance, wear our masks, and especially since the Eid is coming, please follow the guidelines. Please take care of yourselves and take care of others. We as a nation, we as a humanity have to fight this. And inshallah, we can. It's just the decisions that we make. Inshallah, if we are around, there will be more Eid, there will be more celebrations, and we will have like a lot of fun. It's just a matter of months. So just take care of yourself and take care of others as much as you can. Thank you so much, Dr. Hina. Thank you so much, Brother Rafee. Thank you so much, Sister Talibah. Thanks once again to all of you. It's always a pleasure hosting this show, getting to learn new techniques about mental health, physical well-being. And I hope people who are watching benefit from this. And inshallah, I hope to see you guys again. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and happy Eid. Stay safe and take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.